Hello and welcome everyone to our tech news stream. Today we will show you some really exciting new technologies, GitHub repos and everything around this. And we're also here to discuss them a little bit. So yes, I want to welcome Matthias, Olesha and Maxim from the LabLab team. And I'm Fabian, a developer at LabLab. Really great that you're here and watching us live. I've prepared some really exciting stuff, so let's get started. First, let's have a look at new large language model called Falcon. And this is a really exciting large language model because it's a really big large language model that is also available for commercial use. And this comes from a company from the United Arab Emirates. So right here we have the open large language model leaderboard on Hugging Face, and you can see that this large language model takes 2 top spots on the leaderboard in terms of benchmark results. So right here we have a couple of different benchmarks. So we have this reasoning challenge, we have a couple of more challenges, so multitask accuracy. And you can see that Falcon takes the top spots, and there's even a smaller model, which is 7 billion parameters, which is also pretty high up here. So this is really exciting. We can also test this model in our small Falcon chat demo, which is using the bigger model in the background, the 40 billion parameters one. And this is actually fine-tuned on a specific data set for like question answering pairs. Yes, we can just try it out right here with some examples that were given. So, hey Falcon, any recommendations for my holidays in Abu Dhabi? Let's run this. And we will get this really great answer right here. Something else that is really exciting here, someone on Twitter actually got this running on his M1 Mac. It's the smaller model, but it's still very impressive. So if you want to learn how this was done, please follow us. We will have some tutorials coming up on how this was done. But yes, maybe let's first discuss this model a little bit, because this is really the first open source model for commercial use, and this will enable lots of people to build really cool applications. So Matthias, what do you think about this model right here?
It's really exciting to see more powerful and open models coming. I did also see that some people thought this Falcon one did not really get as much exposure as it was supposed to get, and people was wondering a little bit why that was the case. But it is available on Hugging Face. Everyone can use it as of now.
Yes, exactly. So this is really completely open source.
And how is it in your opinion, like compared to GPT-4, for example?
I think it's pretty good. I even tested like some different code questions. So right here I asked like create a Python function that prints out all Fibonacci numbers from 1 to 100, and this also works pretty well. So I'm really impressed.
I did see you were asking the same question earlier today on our Discord with our bot there. Did it get it right?
Yeah, it also did it right. But I guess the bot is using the GPT-4 or 3.5 model in the background, right?
Yes, GPT-4.
This is super great, and also great news for each developer, because now you can really build and test with these open source models without any closed source stuff going on in the background. So that's really nice.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know anything like what is the hardware requirements if somebody want to run it like local? I did see you were showing there like somebody managed to get it to run on a M1, but can we see here what kind of GPUs they use?
The 40 billion model is pretty heavy, so you need about like 18 gigabytes of VRAM. So I guess this will always have to be somewhere in the cloud. But the smaller model only needs about 15 gigabytes of VRAM. So on a really good consumer graphics card, this can be run on your own hardware at home. Yes, and
So is there any API options for now? Or we can't use it as an API for now?
For example, you can just run this on Hugging Face. So if we go right here, you can just hit this button right here and then deploy this, for example, to Amazon SageMaker. And this is really easy to deploy, and then you can use this basically as API. And you can also use for testing different kinds of stuff. You can always use these inference endpoints, and this is basically also then hosted in the cloud and really easy to set up. Okay, so let's get to the next topic, which is also another large language model, but this one is fine-tuned for code. And something that's really interesting about this large language model is that it outperforms all other current available models. For example, we have the model that powers GitHub Copilot right here, which is code Cushman 001. And this model outperforms this model by a pretty good amount. So this is really interesting. For example, if you're building like similar applications like GitHub Copilot.
May I ask just there, what is the value on the right side? I did see it was like 2 numbers, MBPP.
I guess this is like another benchmark.
Okay.
Maybe we can find this. Yeah, okay. It's like a data set, probably with, so this is like an accuracy test.
Okay.
Yes, so this is really interesting. Like here you can see this can also be used as a coding assistant. So yes, if you want to read more about this is a really great article. They also tell you about like the training data set and things like this. So Big Code was the training data set. Yes.
And this one is also open source?
Yes, you can also just run this on your own hardware. So you can go to the Hugging Face page right here. You have to accept the small banner that is right here. And then you can use this one right here. So simply on your own hardware. Or you can just test it right here on Hugging Face. So I will just say something like dev. Let's start with something easy. Add 2. Let's just open this and then compute. So this works really well. We can also try our Fibonacci example. Dev print Fibonacci. Compute again. Let's compute even more. And you can see this is just similar. Okay, this is not really printing in the end, but that's fine. Yeah, it's similar to what Falcon just generated. Yes, and similar to Falcon, you can just host this right here on Hugging Face and get an API running fairly easy and quickly.
Very nice. Is there any comparison how it does against like GPT-4 or only the Cushman?
I guess they only have tested this against Cushman, but that would be really interesting how this performs against GPT-4, since this is really fine-tuned for code. I think it comes pretty close to GPT-4.
Nice. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a lot of open source really available models that have been coming lately, and I guess there will be even more of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Entering the market.
Okay, so maybe let's go to our next topic, which is tree of thoughts. And this is a really interesting topic because this shows that even after large language models are trained, they can still improve, or the quality of responses can still be improved. So right here it says advances model reasoning by a whopping 70%. And this is really interesting. So if you have a look at the paper right here, the abstract says that large language models are increasingly being deployed for general problem solving across a wide range of tasks, but are still confined to token level left-to-right decision making. Basically, you write an input and they create an output. But what they try to do here is actually to create an entire process of creating as output. So maybe you have heard of chain of thoughts. So right here we have all these in comparison. On the left side, we have just input output. Then we have chain of thought where we tell the model, okay, please think step by step. This improved the response, for example, in math related questions a bit. Then we also have chain of thought with consistency. So you do this multiple times and then pick the best examples. So this makes the model or makes the responses a bit more consistent. But now we have tree of thoughts where we basically generate thoughts and order them in a tree-like structure, and then let the model decide for itself which thoughts were good, and then create an answer out of these different thoughts that are structured in this tree-like data.
As I understood it, it could set up, so it's set up, okay, I have these 3 different paths, for example, to go, and then it will take the most likely one and it will start on it. But if there is not certain success reached at some point, it will go back and try another one, or how does it work? Do you know exactly how it works?
So basically, it thinks about its own answer and then reflects on this. And in the end, it looks at like different paths in the tree. Yeah, and then chooses for itself if this is like correct or not.
I think it would be really interesting also with, and I don't know if it's implemented in this method, but to actually have it to be able to go back to a previous checkpoint again if it gets stuck or something with it, because with the agents you often can see they get into some type of loop and then they are looping around forever in their little chain of thoughts.
So you can see right here, this is also available as a PyPy package. And here they set up this small game of 24. Yeah, and I guess everyone can just try this for itself. But yeah, this is really great like for just scientific testing of these models. But the real interesting point about these kinds of projects is that, like, even after these models are trained, people find ways to prompt them in a certain way or build entire systems on top of these models that makes them even more capable. So I guess this is really the interesting takeaway here, that even after these models are trained, people will find ways to improve them. And I hope there are more ways coming in order to make these models even more powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I personally believe, and I think many others also, that this approach is kind of the next thing overall in AI when it comes to agents and tree of thoughts and stuff. And I could see OpenAI was reaching some new levels in cracking math problems using a similar approach. Is there any official implementation into LangChain as of now?
I think not really with LangChain, but LangChain is usually pretty fast with stuff like this, so I guess we will see something there soon. So if anyone is interested in this, and there's an entire paper about this prompting method, you can definitely check this out. So let's move on to our next topic, which is connected to LangChain. So LangChain added a new data loader. So if you're not familiar with LangChain, they have a lot of different data loaders that lets you add knowledge to the knowledge base of the AI, you could say. And this makes it possible to load entire GitHub repos into this knowledge base. So right here, you can just specify a specific GitHub repo, specify a branch. Yes, and then use this new Git loader to just load in repository and then, for example, ask questions about this repository. So right here, I've used this GitHub repository as example. So this is small developer, it's called, and this just lets you generate boilerplate code really fast. And I've created this notebook right here to show this. So we install LangChain and Git Python. Then I specified this repository via this link. You can just put in a repo path, put in a branch. You set your OpenAI key, then you load the entire repo into these documents.
And there your OpenAI was gone, Fabian.
No, it's censored out right here. No worries.
Okay, great.
So yeah, we basically just split up the repository contents into smaller chunks. Then we create this index right here from these chunks, and now we can query this index. So for example, if you look at this README right here, there's just a lot of text, and you would have to read this out all by yourself in order, if you want to know, for example, how you want to use this or how you want to install this. So now you can just ask, how do I install this? Then you get all the relevant pieces of context from the repository. Then right here, you can see that these are all the relevant pieces from the repository. So these are like 5 different chunks. And then we pass this entire context to another function that just creates actual response. So right here, you can basically see this is using the GPT 3.5 API. And I'm just passing the context and the actual query. So the context were all the relevant pieces from the repository. And the query was my question right here, how do I install this? And then we just print the completion that was created. And now we get this really nice and easy to read and to understand answer. So to install this project, you can follow these steps, clone the repository, open the example env, rename it, fill in your API keys, if you have VS Code and Docker installed, and then have these additional steps. Yes, and you can basically do this with any repository you have. You can also do this to like non-public repositories, as long as you can download them to your system. But I think this is really helpful. And yeah, this might be an interesting addition to GitHub if they actually integrate this chatbot for repositories where you can just ask questions. And yeah, maybe GitHub is also going in the direction of adding something like this to their platform.
Yeah, really, really interesting. Could be good for agents also, so it actually knows how to install the code it needs.
Okay, so yes, but I think this is a really cool thing, basically a chat with your GitHub repository.
Yeah, and this works on, I guess, it works on public one, and how about private repos? Do you know if that's possible as of now, or?
So right here, you can just clone from a URL, so these must be public. But if you loaded the repository, you can just basically load it into LangChain from your local disk.
Okay, that's cool. All right.
So yes, maybe we can also use this for our internal repositories, because I guess this makes it super easy for new developers to get into a project.
Yes, definitely. That's a good idea. But I think also like stuff like this will become really powerful also when it comes to like agents and stuff like that, as they can write and deploy code on the fly. So if it can understand a little bit better how to do it, that's probably very, very powerful.
I mean, it would be super cool if like an agent has this implemented as a tool and they can just use it and then check out an entire GitHub repo in just seconds. Yeah, but we will come to agents. This is actually my last topic that we will talk about. This is just a really quick and super fun example. So right here we have Stable Diffusion plus ControlNet. And with ControlNet, you can basically control Stable Diffusion generations, because I think everyone tried by now. If you just type in a prompt, every generation will be different and you can't really control the structure of the created image. And with ControlNet, this makes it possible to actually control the Stable Diffusion generation. And someone now used this to create QR codes that you can actually use with Stable Diffusion. So if you're watching the stream right here, you can actually try to scan this. And in my opinion, this just looks super cool, and maybe this is the future of QR codes, because I have not seen anything similar to this yet, and this is just super interesting that this is actually a QR code that you can scan. This can be achieved with ControlNet and Stable Diffusion. So
nice.
yes, I hope we will see many of these in the future. Okay, but moving on to the next topic. So if anyone is interested in this, there's an entire paper written about this style transfer. I will also share this, so everyone who's interested can check it out by themselves. And the last thing we're going to talk about is Voyager, an open-ended embodied agent with large language models. So they use GPT-4 to create an agent that can basically play Minecraft and achieve a lot of different things, actually without fine-tuning the weights of the model. So they really just use the raw GPT-4 model, which is really impressive. And this model can do exploration, and something that is really interesting is that it can create different skills and then refine these skills and reuse these skills. So it does get powerful or more powerful over time. Yes, so this is really interesting right here. This is a comparison. Here on the y-axis, you can see the number of distinct items. And this really outperforms, for example, these lines right here are the React paper, the reflection paper. They just flatline after just a couple of items. Then we have AutoGPT, which was a little bit more capable. Then we have Voyager without skill library, and this also flatlines around here. And now we have Voyager with the skill library, and you can see that this just keeps on climbing and just collecting more and more distinct items. Yeah, so this agent basically can improve itself, which is really interesting. And you can see right here that this is the general system behind this agent. So on the one side, we have all the things that can happen in Minecraft. Then it can create its own prompts and its own skills. And then it can save these skills into the skill library and can also retrieve these skills back if needed. There's also some vector database embedding going on in the background, so it can actually use the skills that are relevant. This is just really interesting that someone can actually did this within Minecraft, because it's just really such an open world game. You could almost say that this is like almost real life. So right here you can see this. You can see like this is the skill library right here. So it writes a small description and then creates this skill with the help of this Minecraft, I think it's a Minecraft mod, to actually perform these actions then. And you can see that basically here it has like all these different skills: mine wood log, craft wooden pickaxe, make furnace, even up to like attack zombies. Yes, so, and if it encounters an execution error, it basically can fix this error by itself. That's also very interesting. And down here, this is also a very good comparison. This is basically the map traversal, so how far this agent discovered the map. And this is also in comparison to React, Reflection, AutoGPT. They all really didn't go out into the wild that far. But now Voyager just went all out and basically explored the entire map. So I think this is a really cool example of these new agents. And they showed a couple of cool things that these agents can do. For example, the skill library, where the agent just creates skills by themselves, refines these skills, and then can reuse these skills. So yes, we already talked about that agent might be the next big thing. But yes, do you think like this is a good example for what will happen in the future? Like, are we going into this specific direction where we will just have some really cool and powerful agents that do all the work for us? Or what do you think?
Yes, I think so. No, but I think it will just breach a lot of things in tech. So even like, I mean, here it's playing a game and it's trying to achieve better level, but I think soon we can use it for a lot of code stuff. And I believe once it start to iterate there on it, I think the results will kind of blast up and it will go really fast with it. So I think a lot of, I mean, unfortunately, or I don't know if it's unfortunate or fortunate, but a lot of work at the computer are going away, at least how they look today, because as of now, it's a largest extent like manual work. We might see it as highly automated work, but it's not really in most cases, I believe. Yeah, knowledge are still super relevant, and you need to kind of know what you want to instruct the systems, but I believe it's a fundamental change, and especially once they can start to do, once people start to put them on different tasks, because it's just like iteration. So the more of them that are running and then iterating, the faster it will go. But it's for sure not just like good. There will probably be a lot of non-nice stuff also, you know, people forgetting these agents running left and right, and it's very hard to identify them and figure it out.
So do you think this is actually, so you can transfer these concepts to other domains, not just Minecraft, for example, to programming, where you have an agent that creates a skill library and then refines the skills and reuses them?
Yeah, definitely. And you have the power of brute force and computer just consistently trying new things, but carry with them what works. And I think once people get those frameworks on place, it will probably start to move really fast.
Yeah, okay, so I'm really excited for the future. That's all for today. You can follow us if you want to stay updated on the latest AI news. We will have another stream on Thursday, and this will be a reoccurring thing. So we will have 2 streams each week. So yes, make sure to follow us to stay updated with all the interesting stuff. And if you're interested in participating in hackathons, you could check out LabLab AI. For example, we have our upcoming AI Agents Hackathon and the Monday.com AI Hackathon.
I think I will be in the agent hackathon, but maybe under some secret hours. It's super good, and it's very nice to be able to stay up to date with this new stuff, and there are just so much happening. So I guess with these 2 streams every week, we just want to have an easy and easily consumable way to stay up to date with it, and we will try to prepare some notebooks and stuff so it's easy to try that stuff out.
Yeah, all right then. Thanks to everyone who's watching, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Fabian. Bye.
Bye.